So 2023, what have we got on? We're going to start as usual with a focus in on interest rates. As you know, the Bank of England put the interest rate up by 0.5% in December. It was the 9th consecutive rate rise. And if you've got a variable rate mortgage, you will be well aware with those letters coming through the post thick and fast with the new mortgage payments. It's the highest rate we've had now for 14 years at 3.5%. A little bit of silver lining. Well, temporarily, maybe we will have no rate rise in January. How do I know that? Well, only because the committee from the Bank of England are not meeting until February. So we've got a little bit of a grace period. But I want to talk a little bit about inflation. Why is that important? Well, the Bank of England are tasked with one, frankly, major job, and that is to keep inflation at a certain target level. And pretty much the only tool they've got in their box to do that is the use of interest rates. And that's why we're so interested in what on earth's going on with inflation. So I've put on here, as it peaked, that's because it did get up to 11.1%, and it's now dropped back to 10.7. Is it on the turn? Well, look, you're not going to get me to commit. I'm not an economist, but it does appear that it is on the turn. Let's hope so. So does that mean the end of interest rate rises? Well, sadly not, because the target for the Bank of England is to get inflation right down to 2%. So because we are so way off there, I can say with some certainty that the Bank of England will be putting rates up later on this year. So what's my prediction? Okay, well, let's get the crystal ball out. I would say that if we split the year into quarters, in the first quarter of 23, we might see up to a 0.5% rise. In the second quarter of 23, perhaps up to another 0.5% rise. So therefore, in the first half of the year, I would say somewhere between 0.75 and a full 1% rise on the Bank of England rate. Now, if that does its job and inflation continues to drop, then I would see that the Bank of England might take the foot off the gas and in the second half of the year, leave rates alone. Oh, very interesting, you say, but what does that mean for mortgage rates? That's far more important than what's going on with the Bank of England rate. So, look, if you're on, as I said, an SVR, you're on a tracker rate, then you are really linked to the Bank of England rate, and that's obviously been affecting you. But here's the thing. In December and in January, we're recording this on the 8th of January, I'm now seeing mortgage rates actually starting to drop. Now, this appears to be a contradiction. Everything I've just said leading up to this point has been about rate rises. And now I'm saying that mortgage rates appear to be slightly dropping. So, Richard, what's going on? Can you explain that? Well, if we focus in on a category of lender that are not the banks, and if you're a portfolio landlord, you're unlikely to be knocking on the high street banks' doors for your buy-to-let mortgages. So you're going to the secondary type of lenders, your Kent Reliance, your Kensingtons, Precise, Paragon, Aldermore. You know the guys I mean. So these guys tend to get their wholesale money, their tranches of money that ultimately they're going to dissect and lend out as mortgages from financial institutions. So these buy-to-let lenders tend to use something called swap rates as a pricing mechanism, not the Bank of England rate. So swap rates are essentially an interest rate that the institutions calculate for the medium to longer term situation. So 2, 3, 5, 10 years, in line with the sort of fixed rates that you might see out there. And it's the institution's prediction of where interest rates are going. And these swap rates, although they spiked in October and November, which is why we saw mortgage rates increasing at such an exponential rate, even though the Bank of England rate didn't go up at that point. Now, because we've got more certainty with a change of government and change of Prime Minister, budget's been reversed, etc., etc. Talked about it at length in November and December. Because there's far more certainty with the institutions, these swap rates are now starting to drop. And therefore, these secondary lenders can start to pass on some of that saving in mortgage rates. And that's why we're now seeing mortgage rates start to drop. How much, Richard? Okay, let's not get too excited. We are not going back to 2, 3, 4%. I'm seeing rate drops of 0.1, 0.2, 0.3% perhaps. You're in that sort of region, less than 0.5% drop. Look, we take what we can get, won't we? So that's the good news right now in terms of mortgage rates. So having a review of your situation right now in January, I would say is not a bad time at all, because you might be able to grab those slightly lower rates. And when it comes to that, if you are tied into a deal, and let's say you've still got 6 months redemption penalties left, that's a really good time. If I were you, that's when I would be engaging with a broker, even though you've got that 6 months, because if you are needing to refinance, let's say your existing lender doesn't do product transfers, for example, so you have to refinance to somewhere else. Let's say you also want to capital raise, then if you engage with a broker now and they can get you a deal at those January rates, then they could get you to a mortgage offer on that new deal and park it for usually up to 6 months. That allows your redemption penalties to come to an end, and then we can move you across, but we can get those rates as at sort of January. So be proactive and engage with your broker is my message there. If you are looking to speak to any of the team, then there'll be a link at the end of this piece to our diary. Do put yourself on. It's completely free, completely no obligation. Have a chat with the team, and let's see if we can help you.